Estimating the front is going to take us an hour.
All right, what time is it right now?
Well, we're going to eat. We'll start the timer once we come back.
All right.
We just got it jacked up and the wheel taken off. That's no biggie. We're swapping shocks in an hour.
We'll see.
So, I finally finished the lift kit several days later than expected. Oops. So I waited all week to put suspension on the Land Rover because, you know, it wasn't raining, and now we're going to be putting suspension on a Land Rover and it's raining outside. On the bright side, the rain has solved my bird poop problem. Anyway, we are going out to Mooresville to see my buddy Rick, and hopefully by the time we get there it will stop raining and be dry. Gotta stop in front of the cop, you know? Don't want to be getting pulled over before I even leave the parking lot. It's funny, that guy rolled up on me like last week, I guess it was, actually about a week ago today. Hopped out of his car and I'm like, oh shit. What did I do? And he gets on and he's like, hey, I love the channel, which is kind of cool. Officer Robinson, he's a really cool guy. For anybody who's not driven a Land Rover, this is the old cup holder situation. It's not sketch at all because this whole drawer also falls out, so you know, there's really nothing sketch about this whole thing. We're driving 40 minutes away with the suspension that we're putting on the car that we're putting it on, and yeah, hopefully driving back. Megan has an appointment in a few hours, so hopefully we don't get stuck in Mooresville. We probably will. Obviously, if you haven't seen the other video, I bought a Land Rover, and the plan is to turn this into my overland rig because I never could turn the AT4 into what I wanted it to be. Use your turn signal, thanks. The first thing I wanted to do was lift it and put suspension on it. And I'm glad that that was the first thing I purchased for this car because I realized about 2 days ago, when I first got in it, I realized that it was kind of a stiff drive. I just thought maybe that's the way it is. But then 2 days ago, I drove it out of my driveway for the first time, and when it came up over the curb and onto the road, there was no dampening. It just boom hit the road. So the front suspension is gone, like gone. That's why it drives stiff. So we're going to Rick's right now to put the suspension on. I'm just glad that that was the first mod I decided to do. This thing was a lift kit with suspension, but yeah, it drives great, honestly, surprisingly well with no suspension.
Man, I thought I heard somebody here. Why not?
I've only been knocking on the door for 30 minutes.
It's loud as heck here. No, you haven't. That old car rich smell to it. They see me rolling.
So I got this.
Sorry.
So you can do some work.
Yeah.
First
Did you buy that?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
First time I ever opened it, you know what I did?
Dumped it out.
I opened it up upside down.
Oh, no way.
I was in a parking lot and did stuff with every spring compressor. That's really the only thing that like wigs me out about this whole thing.
You know what?
People have been telling me horror stories about these all week.
There's tons of NASCAR guys around here. I'm sure they have one.
If we just drove over there, they'd probably get the suspension put on in like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
It's gonna take us all day.
exactly.
Rick says I'm gonna get out of here, so it's almost noon. Rick says I'm not leaving here until at least 6.
Just trying to be realistic.
Megan has to be in Charlotte at 6:30.
Is your Uber app up to date?
Yeah, you're gonna have to Uber back to Concord. These are the shocks.
Goodies.
We also have a damper, like a steering damper, that I need to replace on the front.
As you drop it.
Oh my god! Jacked my finger up when that thing bounced back at me. Holy crap, these are way beefier. Alright, so this, when I'm done, will be a 2-inch lift, and hopefully it'll give us enough space to clear without rubbing anymore. It'd be nice. Somebody warped this nut cover.
What happened?
It's super tight.
Shit.
No, the fit of the socket on the lug nut covers.
Oh, okay. Look what we got.
Okay, so we come back to this. Don't take that. That'll be bad.
How's she look?
She looks
I don't know if I
fabulous.
smell it. Just don't take that.
Don't kick it?
I'm estimating the front is going to take us an hour.
All right, what time is it right now?
What we're going to eat, we'll start the timer once we come back.
All right.
We just got it jacked up in the wheel taken off. That's no biggie. We're swapping shocks in an hour.
We'll see.
There are 4 bolts holding the shock tower down. There's 2 behind and 2 up here. They just sheared one off. So that's not good. Success. Actually, I don't need to. I'm not even putting. Yeah, I'm not even putting those in. Yes.
Get it, Jamie!
It's been an hour.
And we've only done one.
Hey, finders keepers.
Where did I leave it?
So
Bathroom.
Oh.
This is how far off we are. And I think,
Oh wait, is that as tight as you can stretch it?
no, I can go a little further.
Yeah. But what?
We got to get clear of these too.
Yeah. Well, you have to put those in. They go in the bottom. Wait,
They go up through.
do they? Are you sure? Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So I can get it down and around. That might be easier.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Put a nut on top.
The coil is rotated about 180 degrees from where it needs to be, about 90, like 120 probably. The coil needs to go all the way around, and then we'd be fine. But it's so tight in there that I can't torque it. So I got the pin through, and now I can't get the threaded rod back through the bottom because it's
Yeah, well, it's under load, right? It's not under load.
it's not under load. It's
Yeah.
just in order to get it right, it was.
Yeah, crooked. Yeah, we pulled it all the way out.
So I could try to get it up on this one maybe. Gonna save myself some trouble
Okay.
and go back out because I'm anticipating a problem.
Uh-oh.
I'm not gonna make the same mistake twice. It's a moment of truth, people.
Did you do it?
Oh my God, one spring in. 3 hours later. For the record, I've never done suspension. I've never done really anything like this on a vehicle. So this whole thing was a learning experience. One done. Well, sort of. God, this thing is so frustrating. My fingers are relaxed. Pull that finger, seriously.
Okay. Is it
It's
gonna
stuck.
be weird?
No, it's just stuck. Oh, yeah, oh, it's back. Like, I'm not joking. Trigger finger.
I don't think it's
Like,
supposed
my
to
hands,
happen.
my hands are relaxed, but that finger is stuck. Like, I can stretch it out, but if I relax it,
That's weird.
just take some shaking out. almost done with the front. It's a new day, new week actually. We were back at Rick's. I got rained out and gave the Land Rover the Carolina squat last week. We drove it home. It was a torrential downpour. This is only technically a 2-inch lift that I'm putting on here, but the suspension was so shot. I'll show you in a minute that the front looks like it's been like 3.5, 4-inch lift. It looks dramatic. In fact, let's go look at it. Look. What I'm getting at is that the rear end will look like the front end after I'm done here today. Also, these don't look too terribly difficult to put in. So.
Famous last words.
About a 3.5-inch bolt. And rear strut is off. So I finally finished the lift kit several days later than expected. Oops, that was significantly more difficult than I thought it would be. Not in an unapproachable way, but just in a frustrating, everything went wrong sort of scenario kind of way, if that makes sense. It was not a very difficult process. Like, technically, I could visualize the whole process very easily. And the funny thing is, one side of the vehicle, we did front and then back, because I Carolina squatted it for like a week. But one side, if you take the time that I took to do the first side on each, the front and back, it was like a collective 5 or 6 hours of work. Whereas the driver's side, which I always did second, so it started on the passenger and then I went to the driver's side. The driver's side, collectively front and back, took maybe an hour, maybe. It drives so much better. It looks so much better. Everything about this thing is better now. Well, except for the coolant issue that has developed since I put on the front suspension. So let me show you something. If you look right there, you can see the shock tower or shock absorber that I put in, as well as the strut. That is positioned directly beneath the coolant tank. You have to pop the coolant tank off when you want to access the strut, which means that I think I may have messed something up. It could have been an issue that I just didn't notice before, but now when I hit the throttle, it sounds like gushing water in the dash, and I don't think I can recreate it, but I'm gonna try. Let me just clarify, I'm not an expert. This is the first time I've ever done suspension on a vehicle. I don't know much about anything mechanically, but that's why I bought this vehicle, so I can learn. I wanna do all of the things myself. And in doing so, I knew that I was gonna run into stuff like this. Overheating, thermostat issues, those seem to be one of the bigger problems with Land Rovers, so gotta be careful with it, but I'm keeping an eye on it, and I'm definitely gonna do some work on this very, very soon before I drive this thing too much more. But let's try it out. So turn the key, see if we can get it to work. If you can, I don't know. There we go. So yeah, that's fun. I'm probably gonna have to flush it again and refill it, maybe do a pressure test on it and make sure there's no leaks. regardless, that's something that definitely needs to be addressed sooner rather than later, because that is an issue with these Land Rovers, especially with overheating. It's an aluminum engine, so you overheat it and you're gonna blow the head gasket and you're gonna have, you know, a really big problem on your hands. So not something you really want to mess with, and something you should probably take care of quickly. But yeah, I'd never noticed this issue before removing the coolant tank, and I hope it's just a simple fix. But anyway, let's take a look at the suspension. There she is, and boy does she look so much better. Before, there really wasn't much of a gap, maybe like an inch between the top of the tire and the fender well in the front and the rear. And this is only a 2-inch lift. I'm pretty sure that was the original suspension from 21 years ago. It was totally dead. There was no dampening in the front whatsoever, and only in the rear was there a little bit of dampening when I'd go over speed bumps or pull out of my driveway. But now we have some pretty beefy coils and struts in here. So this was the Terra Firma 2-inch lift kit that I got from Rover Parts. The rear, I'm not gonna lie, was really sketchy. A lot harder to see in here, but the springs, the coils on the back are much beefier, and they're significantly taller than the original. So what that means is that it's way tougher to compress the rear springs. All the videos that I watched on this made it look very straightforward, and to be fair, it was. And I always kind of try to anticipate what could go wrong, and I thought I had everything sorted. So when I started this project, I thought it was going to be pretty straightforward. I knew it was going to be maybe a little hairy in a few parts, but it was hairy in many different parts of the process, because when we first went to jack this thing up, even at its stock ride height, it was higher than the jack stands could reach. So we ended up having to jack the axle up, get the wheel off, and then drop it down onto a jack stand, which means that the axle was really, at most points, like an inch or an inch and a half off the ground. Didn't give us a lot of room to work with, and the spring compressors were sketchy all around. But I think the sketchiest part was, well, the spring compressor I bought wasn't very sketchy, but it didn't work for the rear. So I had to use the two clamp style spring compressor for the rear. Whew, that was really sketch. At one point we were being very diligent about only tightening about the same amount on every side, back and forth, like just, man, the spring still wanted to twist on us. The clamps were starting to twist, and there's a lot of tension. I would really hate for one of those to fail. Fortunately, we didn't have any mishaps. But the sketchiest part, since we didn't have a lift and we had to do this one wheel at a time, the sketchiest part was when we had 3 of the 4 wheels done, and this last, the driver's side rear corner, we jacked it up, and then we went to drop it down. We got the wheel off, we went to drop it down on the jack stand, and as we did, there was more of a tilt than with the stock height. I guess that's because the car's having to come even further down to touch that jack, and the whole thing is tilting. It was sketchy. We were very safe about it. We used multiple jack stands and kept the floor jack under it just as a safety. Man, that whole process, it went very quickly, but it was sketchy. I got to show you one more mod that I did, a fix, a repair, or whatever that I did to the Rover. So when I lock the Rover, okay, you lock it twice, this rear door locks. But if I unlock the vehicle, it's still locked. It will not unlock using the key. So I have fashioned this fancy mechanism using a zero feud Brickman bead. It's tied to the door handle back there. All you have to do is give it a little tug, and now the back door is unlocked. Ta-da. I'm cracking my bumper. Before this, the most I'd done on a vehicle is brakes, calipers, rotors, rotate tires, oil changes, topical stuff that I think most people know how to do. Suspension's definitely, you know, a little bit of a step up from that, and can get a little hairy, especially compressing springs. It's definitely going to continue to wig me out if I ever have to do it in the future, but went pretty smoothly, all things considered. So I'm glad I did it. This is probably one of the biggest upgrades I'm going to make to the car itself, other than, you know, bolting on stuff. Everything on the outside left is mostly bolt on. The roof rack, there's no drilling. The tent will go on that. There's front and rear bumpers. That's really about it. Maybe wheels and tires. The rest of it is inside. I want to, you know, fix some of the plastics, and then the rest I'm not ready to talk about yet. I've got plans for the inside of this thing, and I want to show you guys rather than tell you, and I think you're gonna like it. So I'm driving to the office today to finish up the edit on this video, and look what happens. The window will not roll up all the way. This happened on the way here, and it's been raining all day. Fortunately, the gutter rail extends out and kind of makes it hard. Like the window's rolled up enough to where it's not in the way, and rain's not really getting inside, but yeah. Gotta figure out how to fix that one now too. Sweet. I don't know. Carry on, I guess. What else can you do?